There's about to be a free agency frenzy, but the Chargers have already been incredibly active finding their new starting center and fullback before the legal tampering period begins.
You are Locked On Chargers, your daily podcast on the Los Angeles Chargers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What is up, and welcome into the Locked On Chargers podcast. I'm your host, Daniel Wade, joined as always by my co-host, David Droegemeier, and we've been covering the Chargers now for 10 seasons, but this is our 8th year as the host of the Locked On Chargers podcast, bringing you your team every day as part of the #1 sports podcast network. David, what do we got today?
Well, Mike McDaniel's touch has already been felt on the moves that the Chargers have made with their new starting center, Tyler Biadasz, and Alec Ingold, the new fullback who is a former employee of Mike McDaniel with the Dolphins for the past 4 seasons. And there's some rumors out there about potentially trading Quentin Johnston, and we'll have to talk about that. And return of the Mack. Khalil Mack is back for another year with the Chargers.
And it's been a crazy, past few days of that. In segment 3 today, we have an absolutely loaded show, but we want to start with the new additions. And last week, the last show we had was Daniel Pomper coming on talking about Tyler Biadasz, a guy that he had reported was visiting with the Chargers. The next day, the deal gets done. The Chargers find their starting center on a 3-year, $30 million contract and make a huge move on the verge of free agency. This is something that had to get done. It was the Chargers' biggest position of need going into free agency, especially after the retirement of Bradley Bozeman. But we knew a new guy was needed, and the Chargers kind of got through in a loophole where now, because he was released by the Commanders, they get to get him ahead of free agency, right? And they get to cement that spot in place before everything begins.
Yep, they find their new starting center already. And it just seems like this was a move that was born to be made by Joe Hortiz, the Chargers general manager. These are the type of moves that he loves to make because you find a player that was cut because of a cap casualty type of situation that's still a quality football player. That's going to be a huge upgrade and not going to affect the comp pick formula whatsoever. So the Chargers get to sign him. They get him in the building before the bidding wars begin, and they get a nice upgrade. I think a good deal for both sides.
Yeah, and that is the most important part here. The Chargers have upgraded at center. They have that player now under contract for the next 3 seasons, which is just huge news because it's something that since the shocking retirement of Corey Linsley has just been a bane in the Chargers, to their existence. I mean, it is something that has continually popped up and has killed them in the biggest moments, including their 2 embarrassing playoff losses that they had. Now they get someone who, depending on who you ask, might get a different story on how good he is. This is from Brandon Thorne, who is someone that I respect as one of the kind of O-line gurus that's on social media, saying this about Tyler Biadasz. He is one of the better move blockers at the position, constantly intersecting targets with precise angles, timing, and leverage on climbs and second-level fits. This is something that, if you go back and look at what the Dolphins offense looked like last year, and obviously it's fresh on our minds because we were watching it, to see what Mike McDaniel was going to bring to the table, those are all things they were having Aaron Brewer do, right? Like the ability to go pick off guys at the second level, to have the timing to make these big runs work and to spring these big runs is all incredibly important. And I think when you look at that part of it, which is something that Bradley Bozeman would have struggled with had he been back, right? And then you also just look at what Mike McDaniel likes to do in the screen game, right? And just getting creative. He's a guy that kind of checks all of those boxes. And like, even if it's not Tyler Linderbaum, because obviously this is the death of the dream of Tyler Linderbaum, like unequivocally, this is a big time upgrade over what they had.
No question it is. And not only is it a big upgrade, as you mentioned, it is a much better scheme fit, but we're looking at a player here that has 5 straight seasons, over 900 snaps played, so very durable, 25 or fewer pressures allowed, and 3 or fewer sacks given up in all 6 of his seasons. So this guy is a quality center here, and is going to fit exactly with what they want to do. He's athletic. He can get out in space. He can go pick off guys. We saw it. I saw it firsthand.
Yeah,
I was in the stadium when I was watching the Washington Commanders run all over the Chargers at will, and if you were paying attention, you saw Tyler Biadasz getting out there in front, climbing to the second level and getting guys out of the way to allow the Commanders to run wild all over the Chargers. So it's something that I look forward to seeing. I think that this is going to be a great addition. You're adding another big man athlete to the offensive line.
Yeah, and that's the thing is, like, even if he didn't, like, test off the charts or anything, like, he overcomes maybe, being an average athlete by having all those precise angles and just doing the right things and being in the right place at the right time. And, like, when you have bad running games, a lot of it is timing related. Some of it's just getting blown off the line of scrimmage and you're losing those man-on-man battles. He is someone that always finds himself in the right spot. And when you're trying to chase down people that are much smaller than you and faster than you, it's not about being more athletic than them, right? It's about being in the right place. You know where the ball is going. They don't. And being able to hit those guys at a consistent level. That is what this is about for Mike McDaniel and what he wants to do in this running game, which is one of the big things we wanted Tyler Linderbaum for because he's so good at those things. Biadasz not as good, but still very strong. Like, this is an above average starting quality center, which is just huge to get for the deal they did, which is going to cost probably less than half of what Tyler Linderbaum is going to make. And you look at it, I mean, Bradley Bozeman 2024, 2025 allowed 57 pressures in those 2 seasons, 6 sacks allowed, and 10 quarterback hits. Obviously, Justin Herbert hit more than anybody. Tyler Biadasz, the last 2 seasons, 35 pressures, 22 less pressures allowed, 4 sacks allowed, and 0 quarterback hits. The only time quarterbacks got hit behind Tyler Biadasz was when they were sacked. There was no additional hits given up, which is crazy to have 0 in back-to-back years. Sign me up for the guy with 0. But to your point, getting the job done before the market heats up, David. Like, as soon as they got that deal done, everyone's like, oh, but I wanted Connor McGovern. I wanted Tyler Linderbaum. Okay, well, Connor McGovern's off the table, right?
Yep.
Now he's making $13 million a year.
Yep.
Okay, oh, well, what about the Packers just re-signed their center, Sean Ryan, to a 3-year, $33 million deal, $11 million per season, more than Tyler Biadasz. He wasn't even good. Like, he was near, like, almost at the dead bottom of pass blocking efficiency. A good run blocker, but the Chargers get a good run blocker, a good pass protector, and also there's a chance for them to start, get a starting center. Like, as soon as this opens up today, David, those jobs are going to go quickly. You couldn't be one of the ones that ended up without a chair in this game of musical chairs.
Absolutely not. There is no way that the Chargers could be, sitting out there with their pants down, watching everybody else get the players that they need to improve their football team after the last 2 years of the absolutely horrendous interior offensive line play that we have been subjected to watching. Yeah. It just can't happen. And they know that, and that's why I was very happy that when they saw the guy that they needed to plug in the middle, they zeroed in and they got it done as quickly as possible. And that is what I wanted. I wanted there to be intentionality behind these moves because it needed it. There was no way they could have another season by not fixing these issues. So problem number 1 on the offensive line solved. What they do on either side of him, that is going to be another part of the equation that they're going to have to figure out.
Well, and let's just do the math, right? Like, Connor McGovern off the board now, right? Sean Ryan, a free agent, off the board. So those 2 teams don't need centers. But now you still have teams like the Ravens, who, if they lose Tyler Linderbaum, obviously, the Patriots just traded their center away to the Bears. You have the Panthers, who might lose Cade Mays. The Raiders don't have a center. The Titans cut their center. The Browns cut their center. And the Vikings center retired due to concussions. Who else is left, right? Like, even if you add Biadasz into that group, Cade Mays, okay, I mean, and Tyler Linderbaum, obviously, only one team's getting Tyler Linderbaum, right? The rest of those teams are going to be fighting over Cade Mays and Luke Fortner, like that. And what if you don't get one of those?
It screams overpay to me, Daniel.
I mean, it's just a chance like they couldn't be willing to take. So that's one of the reasons I'm big on this deal and I'm happy about it. Also, per over the cap, Tyler Biadasz's 2026 cap hit is only $4.25 million this year.
Wizardry.
They did this, but the job is not done, and they've left themselves flexibility to fill out the spaces around him, and that is what's huge, right? It gave the Chargers more money to keep attacking these needs and also probably help them get Khalil Mack, who we're going to talk about, and add the next guy who we're going to talk about, Alec Ingold, because maybe the worst kept secret in the league over the last few days after he got released was that Alec Ingold was going to be joining his friend Mike McDaniel in another warm city in Los Angeles. So we're going to talk about the Chargers and their latest free agent addition. before the opening bell rings, and also Quentin Johnston trade rumors on today's Locked On Chargers podcast. Workplace chaos, deadlines stacking up, inbox overflowing, and the one position you have to fill still sitting open. When the pressure's on and you need the right hire, this is a job for Sponsored Jobs. Indeed, Sponsored Jobs helps you reach the people who actually fit what you're looking for, skills, experience, location, so you're not just hoping the right candidate stumbles across your post. And here's a stat that says it all. In the minute I've been talking to you, companies like yours made 27 hires on Indeed, according to the Indeed data worldwide. So if you're hiring, you can spend less time searching and more time interviewing candidates who check all of your boxes. Less stress, less time, more results. When you need the right person to cut through the chaos, this is a job for Indeed Sponsored Jobs, and listeners of this show will get a $75 sponsored job credit to help you get your job the premium status it deserves at Indeed.com/podcast. Just go to Indeed.com/podcast right now, and to support our show, tell them that you heard about Indeed on this podcast. Indeed.com/podcast. Terms and conditions apply. Need to hire? This is a job for Indeed Sponsored Jobs. The NFL news, it never stops, and the Chargers had more of it over the weekend when they ended up coming to terms with Alec Ingold, their new starting center, starting fullback, David, after already securing their starting center. Getting those two jobs, boxes filled before free agency begins, obviously is huge. This one makes a ton of sense, though. This is one that when the Dolphins released him, it was like, okay, well, this is something that probably is going to happen. And it did sooner rather than later. And I think the Chargers getting this deal done, and according to, Jeremy Fowler here, or Tom Pelissero, signing at the highest of any fullback in the league, at least tied for the highest yearly value of any fullback in the league. This is someone that they really wanted, and they made sure to get it done quickly.
Yeah, I mean, I think this one just was a matter of I wonder when I'm going to get the notification.
Sure.
Like, as soon as he was released, it was like, okay, well, he's definitely going to the Chargers. It's just when they're going to get that deal done, and we saw it happen, get put together pretty quickly. And, this is just another example of, hey, I'm a new offensive coordinator in a new place. I'm going to get my guys. I'm going to bring them in, and they're going to help me teach my system to the players that are here. And he's a quality player, right? And he fits more of what Mike McDaniel is going to be trying to do in this offense. So yeah, I think the deal is whatever, 2 years, $7.5 million. I don't think there's really a big of an issue with that. $3.75 million per season on average. I think it is decent here, but I think it's just this is a relationship move that we knew was all going to happen.
Yeah, and I think just as far as like on the field, like they're telling you kind of how important it is to have this guy specifically, right? Like they could bring anybody in, but I think if you look at, the Kyle Juszczyks of the world, you look at Mike McDaniel bringing in Alec Ingold into Miami, right? Like they like their fullbacks to look a certain way, to play a certain way, and they ask a lot of them, right? Like they ask these guys to do a lot, whether it's pass blocking, whether it's running routes, whether it's run blocking. They ask a lot of them, and to have somebody that can seamlessly fit into this offense and knows exactly what gap to go in every time, knows all the checks at the line of scrimmage, can help you in pass protection there, and is something this team needs, which is an athletic, movable blocker that can get in and out, right, and be able to go hit guys on the move. This is the perfect fit. Like, this is as good as it gets for the Chargers, and I think that fullback, obviously a dying breed, but I think you look at these Shanahan offenses, yeah, it's nice, right? Like, it's nice to have a guy like this that can be that Swiss Army knife that you can fool everyone and hit him on a pass in the flats, right? And he can pick up a 20-yard chunk, and he's been an active receiver throughout his career, especially for fullbacks, which usually aren't super involved. But yeah, this is a good news for the Chargers to get this guy to actually, help really solidify this run game and get it going, because even in 2 years of Greg Roman, it never has still been consistent to this point. And there's something to be said about getting a fullback to play fullback, David, and that gets to the next point here, which is this is not great news for Scott Matlock, who became kind of the pet project of Greg Roman in this Chargers offense over the last couple of years. He has, was primarily a fullback last year. This signals kind of the end of that to me.
Yeah, I mean, like Mekhi Becton, like Bradley Bozeman, he's just, not the type of player that's going to work in this offense. A big hulking defensive tackle that he was just trying to throw in there to smash guys out of the way. That's not the way that they're trying to play offense anymore. So for him, he's going to have to, dust off his old defensive lineman gear and try to, get that going again, because if not, then it might be the end of the road for our good old red-headed warrior, Scott Matlock.
Yeah, and this is, last year was kind of a culmination of where things were headed since Jim Harbaugh took over. I mean, he played 266 defensive snaps in 2023, 137 in 2024, and he only played 18 snaps defensively last year. So I do feel a little bad because Scott Matlock, I remember at one point last year, publicly had said, like, hey, I want to kind of be better at defensive line, and I really want to kind of focus all my energy there. And they basically shut it down and said, hey, listen,
no, you're a fullback.
You want to make this team, fullback's the best way to do it. So, hey, maybe he goes to the defensive line and just goes crazy, but this does seem like it's going to signal the end of it, because the last time we saw him playing defensive line consistently, it wasn't great. So, Chargers, this roster shuffling continues. They're getting guys. I mean, the first two external signings have told you a lot about what they're prioritizing right now, which is running the football and being able to get that part of the game working. This next part was something I didn't see coming. I saw it floating around that Jeremy Fowler had said that Quentin Johnston was potentially on the trade block. So this is what the actual quote is. I got this from Alex Insdorf, who said, Jeremy Fowler said, also, A.J. Brown isn't the only receiver potentially available. Baltimore's Rashad Bateman, Los Angeles' Quentin Johnston, and Green Bay's Dontavian Wicks have come up in my talk. So who those talks are coming from, which side is saying what, that is the part that is all uncertain here, especially in a time of the year that is one of the biggest kind of smokescreen and just kind of, chatter out there and out and about, people kind of gauging what the interest is on things. But David, this is the first kind of official link to the Chargers potentially being open to trading their former first-round pick.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not a huge fan of it. I think, it just, to me, he's in a player that's been ascending. He's gotten better and better every single season. But the fact of the matter is the Chargers have to make a decision next month on whether or not they're going to pick up his fifth-year option, and it's worth about $15 million, or in May, excuse me, not next month, in May.
Yeah, it will cost them $18 million in 2027.
Yeah, they'll have to make that decision, right? So to me, this kind of seems like, they're trying to explore a way to try to get another pick and get him, to another football team, and I have mixed feelings about it. I understand it. It's, and it also makes the rumors of them being in on all these different wide receivers make a whole lot more sense now that they're trying to improve specifically at that X type receiver, and all of the type of receivers that they have reportedly been in on now makes a whole lot more sense now that this Quentin Johnston trade rumor information is out there as well.
Yeah, and we'll see how real it is, right? Like, to me, it feels like this means the fifth-year option is unlikely to be picked up. I mean, that would be my first thing I take away from this.
I would agree.
You need two to tango. At the same time, how much is Quentin Johnston worth to you this year when he's only making $4.5 million per season, right now, or for the 2026 season, I should say. So is, what you're going to get back, if you're getting back a 6th-round pick instead of just having Quentin Johnston for this last year, like, I don't know if I'm doing that, because I think even in a limited role potentially in Mike McDaniel's offense, I still think he can bring something to the table that helps you out offensively with the yak ability and everything else. But yeah, coming off a career high 735 yards, career high 14.4 yards per catch last year, was not his career high in catches, but he tied his career high with 8 touchdowns. Obviously, he's done that in back-to-back seasons. There's not 10 other guys that can say they have 16 touchdowns over the last 2 seasons combined. So that is something that's noteworthy. At the same time, like, if this is what they're telling you and this is what's coming out there, it kind of tells you what Mike McDaniel thinks of the fit for Quentin Johnston in this offense, and maybe not potentially seeing it. So yeah, when you see his name getting floated around there, and then you also see the Chargers linked to Alec Pierce and A.J. Brown and Mike Evans, it makes you think, okay, well, the Chargers are looking for a real X receiver, and maybe they think they have enough yak with someone like Trey Harris and someone like Ladd McConkey, who's probably a little bit of underrated yak there, right? So It's crazy if true. Just to see it kind of officially out there, because this is someone, that as fans, we've watched the growth. We've watched him go from the guy who was just kind of hated by this fan base at some point. And last year, he really didn't give them much to hate about because he caught the ball much better in contested catch situations. At the same time, I've always said about Quentin Johnston, like, that's not really the way to use him. And even if he's improved in those areas of what it takes to be an outside receiver and winning outside the numbers, where he's at this point isn't, where those other receivers we're talking about are. Like, those guys are on a different planet right now than where Quentin Johnston is, if that's the way you want to use that receiver, which for an ex-receiver, I think they should. So Quentin Johnston potentially available, but to me, I'm hoping for a top 100 pick if they're going to move on from him, even with only 5 picks in the 2026 NFL draft. But we still have more to get into, and it is Khalil Mack time, because Mack is back in LA for the 2026 season. Was $18 million too much for the future Hall of Fame? We're getting into that and more in today's Locked On Chargers podcast. We live in a world where you can stream anything, order food in minutes, and carry supercomputers in our pockets, and somehow buying tickets to a live game still feels complicated. Hidden fees, jumping prices, endless steps. There has to be a better way, and that's why I use the Game Time app. It gives the fans the advantage. It makes getting tickets simple, whether it's NFL games, concerts, comedy, whatever you're into. And honestly, I should probably go try to use another one, because I've forgotten how much more annoying it was before I started getting on Game Time. Because with Game Time, it is so simple. You see the exact view you're getting from your seat. When you see your ticket, you know exactly how much it's going to cost you. You don't have to wait and go through the checkout and do all of these things, and then maybe it jumps up by 20%. You don't have to worry about any of that with Game Time. And it's also just a great thing to look at if you don't know what you're going to do for the weekend. Like, I looked at it and saw that, oh my gosh, I forget, living in San Diego, the NCAA tournament's coming to town in a couple of weeks. You can go see that and cross a bucket list item off there, right? So much great stuff. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use the code LOCKEDON for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account, redeem the code LOCKEDON for $20 off. Download Game Time today. David, I said before, if Khalil Mack is getting pushed to segment 3, it's been a busy several days, and that's what it has been for the Chargers, who made a big-time move over the weekend to bring back their captain, Khalil Mack, the heart and soul of this defense alongside Derwin James, and just really an incredibly good player still at this point going into his age 35 season. But more than that, the Chargers were in a position, David, where with Odafe Oweh and Mack both being unrestricted free agents coming up starting today, that could have become a red alert need for this team if they didn't find a way to bring back at least one of those guys. And now we know at least one of those guys is coming back, because Khalil Mack is having his 13th season in Los Angeles.
And I am very, very happy to see it come to fruition. I am a big fan of Khalil Mack. Just the way he plays the game. He's not a talker. He's not a guy that's going to say a whole lot. He leads by example, and he is one of those guys that has a presence. When he walks into a room, he commands that respect because of what he's done on the football field. I mean, we're talking about a first ballot Hall of Famer, a guy that plays the game the right way, that the guy that is equally as effective as a run blocker as he is as a pass rusher, which is something you just don't see in this game of football. In a game of so many specialists, there are very few that are technicians at every part of their position.
Yeah, and the way the Chargers run their defense, especially when you're running kind of light boxes in this scheme that Jesse Minter has been running, and now Chris O'Leary kind of takes over the mantle of, you really rely on those edge defenders to set a physical edge and turn runs back inside, and for those guys to be able to stuff the run, fill those lanes, and keep the edges of those defenses intact. Because when the Chargers got in trouble last year, it was almost certainly on the outside, especially a lot of the runs that got broken against them, right? And teams playing the leverage numbers against them. This also constitutes the third starting spot of, the Chargers have filled heading into free agency, not even talking about Alec Ingold. So, I mean, you could say four starting spots that you've already checked out before the market even opens up, before you have to start getting in bidding wars with these other teams. When you're talking about Tyler Biadasz, Tier Tart, Khalil Mack, and also Alec Ingold. So, to me, obviously last year he missed 5 games. So, I'm not surprised to see him still making what he's making, but I also think that he could be a double-digit sack guy again in 2026. I don't think that's crazy at all, and it also constitutes a chance for him to get that first elusive playoff win, and him saying that he believes that this team has what it takes to go get it done. But there is a sentiment I've seen out there, David, which was it really going to take $18 million again? That's what it was in 2025. That's what it's going to be again in 2026, an $18 million fully guaranteed contract.
Yeah, I mean, I understand, you look at it, you're like, oh, it's only 5.5 sacks, it's only 39 pressures. But he had those missed games with that freak elbow injury, and you might think to yourself, oh well, he's 35 years old. Injuries are a problem. They're not. They're not a problem. He's played 16 games in 9 of his 12 seasons in the NFL, so he's been extremely durable throughout his career. And this was a freak accident, freak injury that happened to his elbow, which doesn't really happen to anybody. So. Yeah. He had to deal with that. He came back, and, you saw it, when he was not in the lineup, how ineffective the Chargers were at stopping the run and how much that they got exposed on the edges of the defense. And then when he was back in the lineup, how much that improved just dramatically immediately when he got back in there. That just goes to show you his value. And if you look at it, there are 18 more edge rushers that are getting paid more than Khalil Mack is on a per season basis. So, and I think if you look at it, right, I mean, there's another edge rusher that just got, an extension. That's Danielle Hunter. He got $40 million for that extension. Okay. And yes, I understand he had 15 sacks last year, but he's going into his age 32 season. So, I mean, as something you said, like, he's not twice as good as Khalil Mack is. I completely agree with that sentiment, and I just think when you consider the full complete edge player that he is, I think the value plus the leadership, all of that combined into one, I think the value is there. This is what you have to pay the type of players that Khalil Mack is, because when he walks off the field for the last time, he's going to be walking into the Hall of Fame.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I think he's a gold jacket guy. And I think the thing that kind of gets underrated, though, is like he still is a very good pass rusher as well. Like we know what he is as an edge setter, as a run defender, right? But like he just had a hurt season, right? He missed 5 games, which totally impacts things. Like if you span out what he was able to do, the 5.5 sacks that he had this year, he plays 17 games. He has 8.5, 9 sacks last year, right?
And he had 4 forced fumbles too in that time frame.
Also 4 forced fumbles, in 12 games, which is still pretty crazy. But also looking at the advanced statistics here, I mean, he ranked 28th out of 76th in win percentage of anyone with at least 250 pass rushing snaps. He ranked 8th and 18th in win percentage on true pass sets. So when you take away all the screens and things like that, the teams did against the Chargers because of their lethal pass rush, you take those out and talk about actual dropbacks, you're getting that team to 3rd and long, all of those kind of things. He ranked 18th. He's the 19th highest paid player at his position, right? He ranked 16th out of 676 eligible players in PRP, which is what PFF does. It adds sacks, hits, and hurries and puts them together on a per snap basis. He ranked 7th in that in true pass sets. He can still rush the passer. So, yes, he's a great run defender, but I think the numbers have made people forget that he was still rushing the passer at a very high level last season, too. So,
absolutely.
The one thing that we do kind of know at this point, David, unless a deal gets struck at the 11th hour, free agency is about to begin. The legal tampering happens, and we all know that when that happens, you're going to start seeing deals come across the scroll left and right. And since it's starting today, as everyone's hearing this, it feels like, Odafe Oweh is going to officially hit the open market. And to me, he hits the open market, and it's basically a done deal. I think he's gone.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, there have already been reports out there that's saying that he could get, $20 to $25 million per season. And obviously when Khalil Mack got signed, there was a little kind of caveat that was added that the Chargers would like to bring back Odafe Oweh as well. But the time is ticking.
It's been a couple days now and nothing's happened. Yeah,
exactly. And the time is ticking very, very quickly at this point. As you're listening to this, we could already be past the 9 a.m. legal tampering period time frame. And that means that as soon as he gets to the open market, that contract valuation is going to skyrocket because supply and demand. It's simple business 101. More suitors looking for his services, and he's going to be able to pick which contract he wants to take.
Yeah, and if he leaves, I hope he signs a 4-year, $100+ million deal.
Exactly.
Comes back to the Chargers in that comp pick. And this is the thing: the Chargers spent the 5th round pick for him. And it looks like he's going to go, like at this point. Now, we could wake up tomorrow morning and they could have found a deal at the last second, like I said. But also the Chargers have to, be realistic about what he's worth as well. And if it starts getting to $25 million, and you already have $18 million tied up in Mack, you're going to have a big deal coming for Tuli Tuipulotu.
Yeah.
It gets harder and harder for him to live up to and be able to still say that's valuable, as opposed to maybe you go mid-market, right? You find someone who you feel can outplay their contract they're getting, right? Because now you have Khalil Mack, you have Tuli Tuipulotu, you have a floor for that room now. Now, if it stays like this, it's very much in play with the first round pick. If they don't, sign somebody legit in free agency, and that, signing someone early or drafting someone early because Mack is the one of the two that you picked, right? You still have to figure out the future of that position. Odafe could have figured out the, near future of that position over the next several years, assuming that Tuli gets extended at some point. With Mack back, it's still a placeholder. You still have to kind of find the future there. And with how important that third rusher is to this defense, or at least how important it was under Jesse Minter, it'll be really interesting to see how much they still pursue it in free agency, even though they have Mack, even though they have Tuli. But it also means, looks like Zion Johnson's hitting the open market. The Chargers could be in line for some big-time comp picks, depending on how these deals work out. Obviously, it's nice knowing Biadasz isn't going to count against it. Ingold isn't going to count against it. But more important than compensatory picks is figuring out and filling the issues for this season. So I don't want any comp pick formula to stop the Chargers from doing what it takes to fix this offensive line and make this a Super Bowl contender starting right now in free agency. And so as much as I love the fact they've gotten guys that aren't going to count against it, there's still so much more work to be done, and that work starts today. And the biggest question is, David, will we see Joe Hortiz active on day one of free agency to get us to do a live show tonight?
I think that he will. I think this is the year where the money, where the opportunity, where the problems that need to be fixed all come together in that perfect storm of him spending the money that's available.
And we're going to find out today if they're going to be shopping at the top of the market. But there's only one daily show about the Chargers that's going to continue to be back here with the latest news, sometimes twice today. We're going to save the bonus show to kind of see what happens today. We don't want to do a bonus show that's going to immediately become irrelevant because the Chargers signed 2 players on the first day. I think last year was only Najee Harris on that first day. But either way, to make sure you don't miss the show, whatever we have going tonight, especially if there's a deal and we have to do a live show, make sure to follow or subscribe on the Locked On Chargers YouTube channel and listen wherever you get your podcasts from. You can find the show and all of the alerts we put out for the show at Locked On LAC on Twitter, at Locked On Chargers on Instagram, and our Locked On Chargers Facebook page. So make sure you're following all of those places too. But also, if you want a little bit more than that, you can get that now in the Locked On Everydayer Club, where the Discord chat's going to be a little bit nuts this week. You can get an ad-free audio version of this podcast, but free agency is here, so you can get 1 month free of the Everydayer Club with the code FREEAGENCY, all caps, no spaces, now through March 15th. Go ad-free and keep this conversation going. Join the club at LockedOnChargers.supercast.com or find it in the show notes to also get exclusive access to our Locked On Chargers Discord channel. We're going to have a lot going on in there this week. But that's going to wrap things up for today's show. Stay tuned for later in the day because we could have some big moves coming in. But until then, take it easy and go Bolts.